This video is an excerpt from a much longer European travel skills talk. To view other topics or to watch my travel skills talk in its entirety, visit ricksteves.com or check out my Rick Steves YouTube channel. Thanks. Thank you so much for being here. I want to talk about communication. I want to talk about technology and phones. All of these are very important for us to travel. When we're exploring Europe, it's just obviously really important to connect with people, and it's important to take advantage of all the wonderful technical innovations that make travel more efficient and easier now than ever before. A big issue when we're traveling is simply your phone. And we've decided just recently that any good traveler in Europe now needs to have a phone. Find out if your phone works in Europe. You might want to buy a phone in Europe. That's certainly doable. And if you have a smartphone, that's ideal. Whatever kind of smartphone you have, let your company here, your provider here, know you're going to be in Europe and explore your international options. The key thing is your phone can work in Europe in Rome, but it's going to cost you a lot more money than if you would let them know you're going to Europe and buy the right plan for your trip. When it comes to using your smartphone in Europe, there are 3 dimensions to it. You've got simply making calls and making texts, and that's pretty straightforward. You've got data roaming, and you've got using it, thinking of it as a little computer and getting online with Wi-Fi in Europe and functioning that way. It's pretty straightforward getting online. That's either free or at a straightforward nominal cost. And then you can use this just like you use it here when you're getting online. Making the phone calls, I've got a policy where it's 20 cents a minute to call, and it's just pennies for a text. That's pretty straightforward too. The big issue is data roaming. Data roaming is where you can run up a huge bill. Data roaming is when you can bail yourself out by not being able to get Wi-Fi and still being able to get online, but you just got to know how to control that data roaming, buy that data policy from your provider, and then know how to turn it on and off and use it sparingly. You can use Wi-Fi till the cows come home, and it's just fine. But you don't want to use the data roaming recklessly. You need to know how it's working and how much it's going to cost you. Bottom line is, on your settings, you can turn data roaming on and off. If you're nervous, simply turn the data roaming off, and you can make phone calls, and you can get online with your smartphone, and then you can data roam sparingly. As far as FaceTime and Skype and different ways that we can talk to people with our phones or with our tablets or with our laptops, think of it as no different than right here, because you can't do Skype and those things without being online and having a good connection. If you have a good connection in Europe, and if your friend who you're talking to has a good connection here, it's just like Skyping within the United States when you're in Europe. So if you can do it here, you can do it there. And I'll tell you, it's a wonderful service. It's so great to be able to FaceTime people and Skype people. I use Skype, as a matter of fact, as a phoning tool as well. And I can call people just on their phones through Skype when I have a good connection, and it costs pennies a minute. Learn how to use that, and once again, if it works here for you, it'll work for you over there, because it just requires being online and having a good, strong connection. Getting a good, strong connection used to be a challenge. Nowadays, you'll find it everywhere in Europe, and it's just getting better and better. The first thing people ask at the hotel is, how do I get online? And hotels know it. It's almost a joke these days. In the old days, they used to charge you to get online. Now, any good hotel or B&B will provide that as part of they're included in their services. And when you're traveling in Europe, you'll find a lot of people enjoying getting online in their hotel rooms. Traditionally, travelers use their guidebooks in the print format. I still do. 90% of my sales are still print. On the other hand, if you want to go digital, all the books essentially are available digitally. Same information. Some people prefer it, other people don't. It's a personal choice. But you could have my entire library and lots more on your tablet and do just great in Europe with that. I find my guides are very enthusiastic about tablets in Europe. A mini iPad is ideal, or a full iPad. And with this, you can download movies, you can collect your photographs. There's just so many tools, and it's such a portable device. The iPad or the similar device is just a real boon, especially if you're going to be teaching in the context of a tour guide. Photography used to be a big deal. I think 20% of my luggage in the old days was going to be film and lenses and all that. I love photography, but I'm impressed by how good the small cameras are these days. If you're a serious photographer and you want a big SLR and changeable lenses, you can do that. But I hope you're really committed to your photography, because that's a lot of gear, a lot of stress, a lot of headaches from a theft point of view, and so on. And I find that rather than buying the little $100 Coolpix point and shoot, I want to buy about the most expensive pocket-sized camera I can. I spent $600 for my Sony RX100, and it fits in my pocket, and I swear it takes pictures as beautifully as my old SLR. So it depends on how technical you can be and what tools you want, but you'll be amazed at the quality photography you can do with a pocket-sized camera. For a lot of people, a simple iPhone is all they need, and if that's good enough for you, great, because that is really convenient. And it's, I would say, invest a little time in knowing how to use that smartly, because there's a lot of tools that can help you do really well, even with a smartphone. As far as communication goes, Europe is multilingual, and I speak only English. Nothing to brag about, but this substantiates what I'm about to say. You can speak English and do just fine around Europe if you are on the ball. Now remember, it's really important to remember that Europe is multilingual. If you go to Slovenia and you want to get sugar, you'll see it there in 5 different languages, right? They've got the language there, but it's good to function as well as you can in the local languages. When I say I speak only English, I'm not bragging about it. It's a shame I don't speak the local languages. But we speak the world's linguistic common denominator. If a Greek meets a Norwegian hiking in the Alps, how do they communicate? Broken English. What Greek speaks Norwegian? Now, learn the polite phrases. Even if you're going to function with English, it behooves you to know the top 10 polite words in every language. I would say the top 10 words are more important than the next 200 words combined, and you should use them all the time. It's inexcusable for you to be in a country and not to know the nice words. It's rude. It's bad style. That excuses the fact that Americans are so lazy when it comes to languages. Now, for me, I just think it's polite to start the conversation by asking, "Parlez-vous anglais?" Sprechen Sie English? If they say no, I do my best in their language. Generally, after a couple of sentences, they'll say, "Actually, I do speak a little English." And I would be thankful if you spoke clearly. Enunciate every letter. Assume I'm reading your lips, wishing it was written down, hoping to see every letter as it tumbles out of your mouth. I speak this way almost robotically for 4 months out of every year. When I return home, my friends say, "Rick, you can relax now. We speak English fluently." But if you want to be understood in Europe, listen to yourself, listen to your friends. They sound like, Gaddafi in a shredder. You need to make it simple. Easy words, no contractions, no slang, internationally understood words. If my car is broken in Portugal, I point to the vehicle and say, "Auto kaput." That would be understood. Honestly, I marvel at how easy it is to communicate with that simple awareness. And conversely, how hopelessly messed up Americans are everywhere in Europe when they don't get that. You don't say, "Excuse me, sir, can I take a picture of you?" You point to your camera and you ask, "Photo?" And that would work. That would work just beautifully. A phrase book is a beautiful thing. We design phrase books. They're the best-selling phrase books in the United States, and we just love them. Not necessarily for practical things. You can, to be honest, you can handle the practical things probably without a phrase book, but it just gives you that little extra edge. You can communicate. You've got all the menu items right there. You can order breakfast with finesse. You know what your options are. You know all the different kinds of coffee at a bar in Italy. You can be in the back seat of a taxi in Rome and be able to say, if he's going too fast, in perfect Italian, you can say, "If you don't slow down, I will vomit." I love to be able to floor people by being able to say goofy phrases. And one thing fun about our phrase books is it's full of goofy off-the-wall things as well as practical things. You're going to be dealing with gestures. They're going to be doing this to you. They're going to be doing that to you. They're going to be doing this, that, and a few other things. And you want to know what it means. And with a good phrase book, it'll help you recognize how to connect with the locals. Any place that wants your money will explain how to spend it in whatever languages are necessary. Okay, here's a little boat station in Bruges. They're selling you a tour. And if you look at that, you can read the Dutch, can't you? or the Flemish, it says boat excursions, 30 minutes long. And if you look further, it says 764, 4 different ways to say adults, and 340 for 4 different ways to say children. How old are children? It says right there, 4 to 11 yar. And then down below, 4 different ways to say the entrance to the boats. That's your standard experience right there when it comes to the language barrier. You'll notice 2 new languages on the list, Chinese and Russian. Didn't see that before. Another thing you'll notice is in restaurants now, instead of 4 different languages, 2 languages. The local language for the local people, English for everybody else. English has risen to become the lingua franca. I've been saying this for 30 years, and since then, a whole generation has grown up speaking better English than ever before. This is the hip and pop language on this planet. Young people, educated people, people in tourism will speak English generally when you're going around Europe. As a matter of fact, counterintuitively, the little language groups, Estonia, Bulgaria, Norway, they would be more likely to speak English than you would think, even more than the people from the big language groups like Spain, France, and Germany. You can be German and have a big world speaking just German. You can't be Estonian and have a big world speaking just Estonian. Only 1 million people speak Estonian. So anywhere you go, you can do fine speaking the language. I've noticed at airports nowadays, there are some airports that have dispensed with the local language altogether. This is a country that speaks Dutch. It's Holland. And in the airport, you just see English language signs. We're lucky. Now, make educated guesses and proceed confidently as if you figured it out correctly. If you're not feeling well in Denmark and you see a sign with a red cross on it pointing to the Central Sick House, go down there and get fixed up. It's impressive to me how many Americans would bleed to death in the street corner looking for the word hospital. They have these things. They just have different names. Make an educated guess. Here's a sign on a shop in Germany. Now, I've never looked up any of these words. I don't need to. I can just fake it. You look at this sign and you realize these are hours, and you don't say, what on earth is that top long word? You think, what can this sign be telling me? It's either open times or closed times. So you talk it over with your partner and you think, hey, they're telling us when it's open. Open times. Open times, vom. From, vom, if it rhymes, go for it. The 4th of July. Okay, these are the open times from the 4th of July. On the left, you see 6 words, most of which end in Tag. Guten Tag, soup of the Tag. Montag, Monday. It's the day of the moon, isn't it? Monday, moon day. What is Monday in French? Lundi, lunar day. It's a riddle. The more you play, the easier it is to step over that language barrier. 2 days later, we have something called Mittwoch. Mittwoch. Now you know 2 more German words. Midweek. That's what Wednesday is, right? Now on Monday, it's open from 9 to 11 and from 4 to 6. Anything over 12, subtract 12 and add p.m. 16 minus 12, 4 p.m. No, 16 minus 12. What am I? 16 minus 12. Yeah, 4 p.m. Somebody said 2, confused me. Yeah, and you got to get good with the 24-hour clock. At the risk of insulting my students, I really hammer this home because I know Americans are over there for 3 weeks and they still go giddy every time it goes over 12. They have the 24-hour clock. If you refuse to learn the 24-hour clock, you'll miss your train in Paris and be mad at the French for refusing to speak English. Get with it on that 24-hour clock. Now, on Wednesday afternoon, something different happens. Do you see how we're thinking here? There's 2 options. Everything else is open. This is different. You don't need a phrase book here. With all the confidence in the world, you can tell your travel partner, hey, on Mittwoch, after Mittag, it's geschlossen. Very nice. There's a lot of signs. There are a lot of signs, but you know, they're pretty self-explanatory. If you look at these signs, you can see where you're going to eat ice cream and where you're not going to eat ice cream and where you can honk your horn and where you can't honk the horn. A counterintuitive thing, of course, a slash, you kind of think no, but counterintuitively, a red circle also means no. So it would be reasonable to think this is where you can take your horse, but no, that says horses not allowed. This says no motorbikes and no cars. Except what? except for access. That means if you live in there or if you have a hotel, you can go downtown. So remember, read the sign, understand the context. All over the place, you've got lots of signs. They're pretty self-explanatory. And I want to stress, you got multilingual signs for your tours. Here's a boat cruise, and what do you got? 16 different languages. That would be a tape-recorded tour. You just dial whatever language you want to hear the tour in. The audio guides in Europe, they'll program them for your language. So, communicating is critical, and if you have good skills, you'll find the most important language that you can have overseas is English. Thank you. If you've enjoyed this video, you'll find lots more at ricksteves.com and on my Rick Steves YouTube channel. Happy travels, and thanks for joining us.